So, what's the real difference between that little corner shop you love and a huge global brand? I mean, besides the obvious size difference, it all comes down to their blueprint, their fundamental structure. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and map out the entire world of business, right from the ground up. It really all boils down to this one question, doesn't it? How does some brilliant idea that started in a garage turn into a massive company that's traded on the stock exchange? Well, the answer is all about the choices made along the way. Choices about structure, about ownership, and really about its purpose. So let's follow that journey together. Okay, so before we can even think about building a business, we've got to understand the world it's going to live in. And at the most basic level, the entire economy is split into two very different arenas. This is probably the most important distinction to get your head around first. On one side, you have the public sector. This is everything owned and controlled by the government. The main goal here isn't to make a profit, nope. It's all about the welfare of citizens, providing those essential services like public schools, roads, or healthcare. Then, on the other side, you have the private sector. This is where most businesses you and I interact with every day live. They're owned by private individuals, and their number one goal, you guessed it, to make a profit. All right, so we've figured out who owns the business, the government or private citizens. But now let's get into what these businesses actually do. It turns out pretty much all business activity can be sorted into one of four basic categories. The easiest way to think about this is like a value chain. Economies tend to grow and evolve through these stages, moving from left to right. It starts with, literally taking things from the earth, then making things with them, then doing things for other people, and finally, just thinking and creating with pure information. Let's break them down. First up, we've got the primary sector. This is the foundation of everything. It's all about pulling raw materials straight from nature. We're talking about farming, fishing, mining, forestry. This is the very, very beginning of the whole production line. Next, all those raw materials get passed along to this secondary sector. Now, this is the world of manufacturing and construction. It's where you take cotton and turn it into a t-shirt, where you take wood and build furniture, or where you take a hunk of metal and turn it into a car. This sector takes the raw stuff and makes it into something totally new. So here's where we shift gears a bit. We're moving away from making physical things. The tertiary sector is all about providing services. Think about it this way. A car gets built in the secondary sector, right? But the truck driver who delivers it, the dealership that sells it to you, and the bank that gives you the loan, that's all the tertiary or service sector at work. And that brings us to the final layer, the quaternary sector. This is the really modern stuff, focused purely on knowledge and information. Think IT support, scientific R&D, software development, consulting. In the most highly developed economies, where wealth comes from ideas and expertise, this sector is absolutely king. So we've got these four sectors of activity, but running through all of them is that same big question we started with: who's in control? And this brings us right back to that public versus private divide, because there is this constant tug of war between them, a huge debate over who should really be in charge of key industries. And this slide really lays out the two opposing forces perfectly. On the left, you've got nationalization. This is when a government decides an industry is just too important to be left to the free market, so they take it over. On the flip side, you've got privatization. That's when the government sells a state-owned company to private investors, making a bet that competition will make things better, faster, and cheaper. And this idea, privatization, it can be applied to almost anything you can imagine. I mean, just look at this example, private prisons. It immediately makes you think, doesn't it? Can a for-profit company really align with something like justice, or healthcare, or education? It's a really complex and, honestly, pretty controversial topic. And this question really gets to the heart of the debate. What are the trade-offs here? Well, the potential reward, the big promise, is greater efficiency and lower costs for everyone. But the risk? Well, the risk is that these essential services might become too expensive or just plain inaccessible for some people. There's really no easy answer. Okay, theory is great and all, but let's make this real. Let's put you in the driver's seat. Imagine you've got a killer idea for a new business. You're the founder. Now, the very first big decision you have to make is what kind of legal structure you're going to use. What's your blueprint? Let's walk through the main options. So you could start out as a sole trader. It is by far the simplest path. It's just you. You put in the cash, you call all the shots, you make every single decision. And the best part? Every single penny of profit is yours. You literally are the business. But, and this is a huge but, there's a massive catch. As a sole trader, you have what's called unlimited liability. And that means if your business gets into debt, your personal stuff, your car, your house, your savings, it's all on the line. The law sees zero difference between you and your business. It's all one and the same. So maybe that sounds a little too risky, or maybe your idea is just too big for one person. The next logical step is to form a partnership. You bring in a co-founder or two, you all pool your money, you share the work, and you build it together. But remember that unlimited liability? Yeah, you're now sharing net risk too. Now this is the absolute game changer. To protect yourself from that personal risk, you can incorporate and form a company. This creates a brand new legal identity for the business, totally separate from you. And the key benefit is right there: limited liability. It means your personal assets are safe. The absolute most you can lose is the money you invested. This is why most businesses that want to grow eventually take this step. Okay, so once you decide to form a company with limited liability, you've got two main choices, which you can see compared here. There's the private limited company, or an LTD. It can only sell its shares privately, usually to friends, family, or early employees. But then you have the public limited company, a PLC. This type of company can sell its shares to literally anyone on the stock exchange, and that is how huge companies raise incredible amounts of money to expand all over the world. But hey, the world of business is way more creative than just these few options. Sole traders and limited companies are the most common for sure, but they are not the only blueprints out there. So let's do a little quick fire round of some other really interesting ways to structure a business. You could open a franchise, right? You buy into a system that's already proven to work, which lowers your risk. Or you could form a cooperative where all the members, the workers or the customers, own and run the business together, and everybody shares in the profits. You could start a social enterprise where your main goal is to make a positive social impact, not just to make money. Or you could see two totally separate companies create a joint venture to tackle one big project that neither of them can handle alone. The possibilities are pretty vast. So there you have it. From a single person with a great idea all the way to a global network of franchises, every single business out there is built on a blueprint. It defines who owns it, who's taking the risk, and what its ultimate purpose really is. So the only question left to ask is, if you were to start something amazing today, what would your blueprint be?